Hey everyone, this is Disc Junkie and welcome back to Disc Junkie's Jeep. Today I'm going to be taking on a project which is a bit different, sort of a thing which bridges to my interest in movies and that kind of stuff. It actually dates back to 1978 when it first made an appearance in the movie Convoy, the angry rubber duck hood ornament. Even if you don't know about Convoy, you probably know about a movie called Death Proof from 2007, directed by Quentin Tarantino. And Tarantino decided to sort of bring back this iconic hood ornament, and I've been wanting to get one of these for a long time, and you can basically get like the original metal cast version from the company that actually makes them. It's not like it's a hood ornament that goes with a particular type of brand of car like a Toyota, or it doesn't belong anywhere. It's just a fun hood ornament that you can get for any kind of car you want, but they're usually very expensive, or at least like the original metal cast versions are. So I've been looking for a cheap alternative, and then I found this one which is made from plastic. It's actually called Turbo Duck on the box, and I'm not sure why. I'm guessing it might be sort of related to copyright issues. So let me just quickly go ahead and pull this out of the box. So here is the duck as it looks. I'm hoping the lighting is okay. And basically you have this, which plugs into your 12-volt cigarette lighter outlet, like so. The box on this actually states 24 volts, so I actually got in touch with the company that makes them, and they told me that this works for both 24 and for 12 volt. And usually, your regular car, like this Jeep here, will have 12 volt, whereas your typical truck, trailer, hitch, on a large vehicle actually have 24 volt, but this one works for both of them. Once you have the ignition on, you just push this little button, and it lights up. So basically the only lighting you have on it is that it has these bright white LED eyes, but it also has lighting on the cigarette, which is sort of slightly tinted red. You can also see that it has little black dots in the center of the eyes there. But I'm gonna take this inside. Heading over to the garage. Bought this from an online company called Used Shop, Netherlands company. Actually the best price I could find for it. I think it was roughly like €5 below most of the other stores. This is like €15 plus an additional €15 for shipping, but it came well packed, and that's actually not too bad of a deal. This place is fucking dirty to the place where I actually want to use the word fucking. Bring this up on the table. For starters, here is the box. There's really not like a lot of specs on it, made by a company called Quintez. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with Quentin Tarantino. No, I don't think so. Typical plastic box. There's a barcode in case you want to Google that. Yada yada. I don't think there's too much else to say about the overall box. But I basically emailed to the company right there. Through that email, asked them about the voltage specification. This is the product, just in case you want to see it in detail before we begin. It's looking pretty close to the originals you see on screen. I haven't been able to study the sort of, cast metal version, but overall it looks pretty good. Now when it comes to the weirdo mohawk thing, some of you who have only seen the Tarantino movie might be wondering what that's all about, and I'm guessing this is supposed to echo the design that appears in Convoy, because in that film, I guess the story is meant to sort of show that the trucker added like a mohawk. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the mohawk, so I'm actually gonna try to remove it, and that's also why I went into the garage for this one. The entire figure seems sort of glued together. There's no bolts or anything. It basically just has like one seam, and it's got some seams on the front, but everything seems very tightly glued. I can't promise that it is waterproof, but it looks really solid, so I don't think you're gonna have an issue with like dirt or water or whatever getting in touch with the circuits, or at least not in its original condition. I'm really not sure how to go about this, but I'm just gonna try to carve a little bit into the plastic to sort of see. This might be the stupidest idea ever, but just want to feel the material. Well, the plastic is actually really soft, and it actually is basically black underneath. My number one option would obviously be to just remove this whole thing. It does seem like it is possibly like an individual part. Not 100% sure about this, to be honest. This isn't any kind of extreme knife, it's basically just a simple sharp knife. And I'm basically peeling it away, creating a flat black surface underneath. I think it actually is part of this left side here, actually part of that cast. I'm actually bringing the saw out here. The material is actually really easy to saw through. I just did this by hand. Plastic is definitely part of the mold. Gonna try to bring in a detailed look at that. Some space on this side, whereas on the other side you do not. Just use a fine blade saw and be careful with the cigar, because it's very easy to just drop this, crack it, and then the cigar is broken. Well, I'm now taking off most of this. There are some slight scratches here and there. Overall, I think the result is actually going pretty good. So I'm just gonna take a knife here and try to even out some of the places where it's still not exactly as smooth as I want it to be. I think this is about as smooth as I'm gonna be able to get it. And it's already looking fucking badass in comparison to how weird it looked with the strange mohawk, which is now on the side there. Go ahead and check the timer here. I've actually been working on this for, say 40 minutes from when I first stepped into the garage, and now I got myself a much cooler looking angry rubber ducky. Depending on what you want to do, if you want to repaint the whole thing, or you can also go with some very fine sandpaper. This is like 150 where I want to smoothen it out. Will obviously leave a little bit of scratches. Now it's going to be worse than the scratches you already left by the saws. I think that's basically it. Just show you how it came out. You can see some of the smoothing out. There are actually some slight edges on the wings or the hands or whatever here. The idea is that I'm gonna actually use spray paint to repaint this. I think I'm pretty much down to where I want to be. Tried to smoothen out all of the edges. You can still see the edge here. They are essentially a lot better than I first started. And I've also gone over the whole back. You can see there are still some marks, but yeah, overall I would probably say that we are ready to paint this. So just go ahead and clean it off using like a wet cloth or a dish rag or something. Head outside, place this in the sun. You know that this has this adhesive on the back of it, so you strip this down. This is essentially made to go on like your dashboard. This is not meant to be a hood ornament. I want to make that clear. Like the producers obviously wanted this to be something for the dashboard, like a fun dashboard gimmick, but I really wanted to incorporate this as a hood ornament and still have the functionality of the LED lights, etc, etc. I don't feel safe that this adhesive backing is going to be enough to keep this on the hood, so I'm gonna try to work out some sort of alternate solution for that. So for now I'm gonna take off a bit of the backing here, and then I'm just gonna stick it onto this piece of cardboard for the painting. Just stick this on here. Fuck, I actually forgot something, but don't worry, we can still work this out. Before we continue and go ahead and paint this, it is obviously crucial that we cover up the eyes and also the cigarette, because that is where the lights are gonna be coming out. Actually gonna cover up part of the cigarette, because I actually think it's a bit weird that the entire cigarette lights up. So now I've covered up the edge of the cigarette, and the eyes can be a bit tricky. Let's see if this works. Let's see. Now if you want to be like hyper professional about this, use like an X-Acto knife or something and basically cover this up exactly how you want it to be. I think that's about as good as we can get. So we've shaken up our spray paint, black glossy paint by Hagman's. Looks good. Basically hit it with 2 coats of paint, turned it over to be able to hit some of these spots that I missed before. Try to make it as good as possible, of course. Pretty sure that I am done painting this. The gloss spray paint was actually a really good choice. Some of the edges are still visible, but overall this looks fucking badass. Check it out. Pretty decent. There we go. Check it out. How's that for a fucking clean edge? I just gotta connect this in the car to see how it looks. This on. The eyes are definitely looking good. You can tell that the cigar is still red at the base. I mean, the reddish light doesn't really show off unless you're looking at it from this angle. Maybe we should just go ahead and experiment a bit more. Here's a piece of warning tape. Gotta cut off a small piece of that. Gonna try to get some electrical tape on there. Certainly one of those moments when you feel like you need an extra pair of hands, even if it's not a sexual situation at all. Fair warning in case you're doing this. When you paint the cigar. This is basically like plexiglass or some kind of plastic. So if you put tape on there and peel it back, you're basically gonna peel off the paint. This shouldn't be happening on the rest of the surface, especially just for the cigar because that's a different material. Taped it off, still put the red plastic on the end. It does look doesn't look like super round, but I think it's interesting because I think that putting the electrical tape actually looks pretty damn good. Plus the fact that you sort of get these little creases and the lines you get from sort of running the tape around, it basically just makes it look more and more like an actual hand-rolled cigar. So I'm actually really happy with this. Furthermore, I've basically gone over the bottom base and removed the adhesive that was already on there to make sure that there wasn't like a big gaping hole at the bottom. I'm guessing the wire just runs up. So if you get some water at the base, you know, I don't think you're gonna short circuit anything because I think the wire just runs up here. So we're gonna be replacing it with some double-sided tape. I bought it at like an automotive shop, so it's for this specific purpose. We found some black silicone, so I've covered up the base, tried to get some in there. That little hole. A bit more secure when it comes to rain and snow and stuff. Actually getting into the bottom of the duck, so to speak. So while that dries up, I'm just gonna go ahead and go back to the car and see if we can sort of measure to find where the center of our hood is. This video has actually taken quite a bit of time, so I actually got a new grill here. Sorry for the continuity errors. Basically use a measuring tape. We found our center. Measured up, got my adhesive prepared on the back, wire in the middle. So got my little mark here, give me some idea. Alright, so let's do this. Put you right about there, to the front maybe like that. Just ease it down. And I think we're straight. I hope we're straight, because that's where we're putting it. So another awkward pause, where you can check out my awesome physique. Okay? Just gonna step away and see what I think about this. Yeah, that is pretty fucking centered. So next up, we're just gonna get the wire where we want it to be. Gonna pop this off, show you the duck. There he is, Mr. Duck. So the basic idea is that I'll take the wire and I'm gonna run it just underneath the edge here, and then we need to get it into the car past the firewall. And I hear you think, what the hell is the firewall? Well, the firewall is basically the thing that separates everything outside the car with the inside. A bit of time has actually passed. Sorry for making this video in so many different sections and segments and whatever. I wanted to show you just how... Just a second, I'm just gonna turn off the radio. I want to get my electronics from the outside of the car to the inside of the car. In doing so, I have to pass through the firewall. The firewall is basically the thing that... Seriously, man. Why is everything happening at the same time? So anyway, I basically run the wire back to the underside, somewhat loosely. Underneath this comes out right here. This end, which has like an activation button. The wire is too short to actually bring this into the car. Could cut the wire and sort of extend it, but we're gonna keep this part intact. Decided to go on eBay and pick up one of these cheap sort of extenders, which just, you know, connects over that and then runs all the way to the cigarette lighter outlet. And this one also has a switch on it with a light, which I think it's good, so when it's on, the red light actually pops on. Whereas on the one that came with the duck, this doesn't actually light up. This is just like on and off, but there's no indication whether it's on or off. Thought that was a nice improvement. In order to run wires from the exterior to the interior of your car, most people do it through the same place, so to speak. Fairly simple. You will need a flat-headed screwdriver at the base here, like so. Then you sort of have to nudge it. You'll have these clips here. Fairly easily will just come loose if you very gently just move the screwdriver upwards, like so. And so, you know, you don't really have to worry about breaking anything. Just be slow and gentle, a little way like this, and then when you get to the top, basically just pops off. So there you go. So loose. You can see what the backside looks like. And here is what you want to be paying attention to. There's a small hole in the metal here, which has sort of like foam padding. You can see that there's a hole in it, but usually there's not. Usually this is all like covered up with foam padding. And what you want to do is you want to go through this foam padding and sort of bring your wires through there, because this is actually a hole straight outwards. Do this as simple as possible. I'm just going to take a piece of metal wire, running this through the foam like so, feeding it outward, and then it basically just comes through. So now we're just going to take our little connector piece. I've actually cut the wire off. Take the end of my wire, tape this onto the steel wire. Paused for a bit, didn't think you needed to see that. Pretty thick wire, but hopefully this will work anyway. See if we can backtrack this. Come on, don't be that person. Yay, there we go. So now we're through. Remove all the tape. So, and now we just basically need to strip this. And now we're just going to use one of these things. It's a terminal block. In Sweden we call them sugar cubes. On account of them being, you know, if you cut them off, they're commonly square and white. So there we go. If you want to get like your super tiny flat-headed screwdriver, these little tiny screws in here, rotate those so you get as large a hole as possible in here. Place your wires into the little holes and tighten the bolts again to the point where the wires should be stuck in there. So now we just need to run the wire from the cigarette outlet all the way to over here. Now I did sort of prepare this a little bit, basically run the wire just straight down. There's actually a big hole here to run the wire. If I put the camera here, you can actually see through, you know, where the driver has their feet. So basically just, you know, made a wire and sort of fish hooked it and then pulled the wire through. Sort of cramped it underneath this little plastic trim here, so it basically goes in here. Then it runs through the center console, thinking that, you know, the easiest way to do this is probably to run your wire through the center console and then upwards, because this also allows really easy access. You can basically just put your hand behind there. I don't know if you can see anything. Move the camera, but there is basically quite a lot of space behind here. And I would also advise that, you know, you try to secure it somehow, put some zip ties, tie it onto like some sort of structure, because you don't want to have a wire which could accidentally sort of, you know, just fall down and flap and be hanging, getting stuck on a wire, or pedal getting stuck on a wire. You know, don't jeopardize your driving. So I've now ran my wire. There's actually a pillar on the back here, and just sort of zip tied it to that. Very easy to access. You can even see my fingers on the other side there, so it's very easy to sort of just put your cable from underneath and then sort of lurk it up here. Extra zip ties here, sort of locking it from sort of sliding down. Some access wire, but it doesn't really matter. And I've reconnected my wire. You want to put your blue to your blue and your brown to your brown. Once everything's sort of zip tied and, you know, tied up so you know it's not going to fall down, put some electrical tape over this to sort of secure it, because you don't want to power from like your cigarette outlet, you know, coming into contact with like the hull of the car, like, you know, you got metal here and what. But I'm not doing it now. I'm just placing this back to sort of show the whole thing in all its glory. And actually you also want to make sure you don't want water coming in contact with this. So what I'm doing, I'm just taking a plastic bag and I sort of cut a hole at the bottom, running my wire through, connecting it, taking a zip tie, just going around the wire, do the same on the other side, and activate the connection, lurk it into this little space. It's gonna zip tie it right here. So now I know, you know, I have this length here, the hood is fully open, so I know that, you know, there's no strain on the wire. You know, it's not gonna get strained or anything when I pop the hood up. So let's just close the hood back down. Back in the car, keys in the ignition. Way! You didn't hear that. And then we can just pop this. Lights up bright red. So let's just go ahead and check out Mr. Duck. Now it is actually getting darker by the minute, but I thought we would still give you a chance to see this in somewhat broad daylight. And sorry about the bird poo. Anyway, this is the final presentation, the way it looks in daylight. You can't see too much of the red on the cigar. You can see a little bit here, but I'm thinking the red is probably gonna show up much better at nighttime. So let's just do like a thingamajig where we switch over to nighttime, okay? Ooh, it's nighttime. Here is the duck in its nighttime status. The cigar is actually showing off really nicely. Still, you can see that I did miss some of the tape at the base there. Actually glowing at the base. Guess I'm gonna have to tape that off, but yeah, looking at it from afar, you can definitely see the red. Yeah, I am definitely liking the overall aesthetics. It's interesting because I was sort of curious, like, will I actually be able to see it light on and off? But I think you basically can, because you will sort of see the light on the cigar, because you can't really see the light in the eyes when you're sitting in the driver's seat, but you will probably be able to see the light shining on top of the cigar. So I think you will still be able to tell. You can definitely see the brightness of the thing. I wouldn't say that it's especially blinding. I don't think you're gonna run into any kind of trouble seeing that, you know, you're basically blinding someone. Because, I mean, the major sort of light issues is basically when you come from the side. Sorry about the lack of focus here, but yeah, this is basically the angle, sort of seeing straight into the light. When you're actually coming from the front, it's still bright, but it's not as bright, so don't think that should be a problem. But anyway, let's just switch back to daytime so we can finish this whole thing off. So, that is essentially it for this video. This was a really fun mod to do. Really hope you enjoyed it, and hope you enjoyed, you know, what the final product looks like. Thank you very much for watching, and as usual, hope to see you all next time.